So one thing that I've been adamant that United need to start to do more is playing through the centre of the press. And you're going to see exactly why in these examples I show you from the City game. So here we see Maguire has possession at the top of the defensive third, and you can see that United are in that 3-2 setup at the base of the possession shape, with Ugarte and Casemiro playing as the midfield double pivot. Maguire and Euro exchange passes, and now Euro has possession, and in this game I was massively impressed with Euro's ball playing ability, and his overall performance in general, which shows that you can't just sign young players, particularly centre backs, and expect them to come in and instantly have a refined game. It took Euro probably 3 to 4 months to settle in, maybe slightly longer, but we are now starting to see glimpses of the Rio Ferdinand-esque centre back that he could develop into. Maguire is pointing for Euro to go back for Onana. Do not do that, because for some reason when Onana receives possession, Maguire, Casemiro and Ugarte stand like statues on the edge of the box, and he has no other passing options than either playing a lofted pass out to one of the wing backs or looking long for Højlund, which usually results in a turnover in possession. So well done to Euro for actually being decisive in this situation, as rather than going backwards he looks to split De Bruyne and Foden with a pass into Ugarte's feet. But before I break down the benefits of Euro playing this pass through the centre, rather than going directly out wide to Dorgu, if you want to pick up any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to www.jerseyfifa.co. They've got a variety of different current season and retro jerseys, including this Manchester United black away shirt with Cantona 7 on the back, from 93 to 95. Which incidentally was a shirt that he was wearing when he put in a perfectly timed tackle on some geezer shouting abuse at him in the crowd, a perfectly valid crash out in my opinion. Or if you don't want to support violence against Palace fans, you can get this black away Manchester United shirt from 07-08 with Ronaldo, Tevez or Anderson on the back. If you use code Atlantis at checkout you'll get a discount, so I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comment section below. So as Ugarte receives the ball, we see why City have been struggling defensively this season, as their midfield three of Bernardo Silva, Gundogan and Kovacic just seems to lack the intensity required. Ugarte, who isn't particularly fluid when receiving the ball with his back to goal, is able to turn out, readjust his body, and still under no real pressure, he's able to split Bernardo Silva and Foden on that side with a pass out to Dorgu. And so now, because United have gone through the centre and then out to Dorgu, rather than going directly from Euro to the flank, when Dorgu receives possession, he's now goal side of Bernardo Silva, who has to apply pressure from behind rather than goal side, and Nunes at right back is also forced to push out onto Dorgu, and you'll see the relevance of this in just a minute. Dorgu is now going to play another pass through the centre into Højlund's feet, which usually would be a cause for concern, and warrant an amber warning from the Met Office, as his touch can be a risk to women and children at times. However, in this game and even in recent games, he has been slowly improving in this aspect of his game to at least a semi-decent standard, and as Højlund is about to play this first time reverse pass, you can now see the effect of Dorgu receiving the ball from a central area from Ugarte rather than directly from Euro has had, as Nunes has now been caught high up the pitch, having had to move out onto Dorgu because Bernardo Silva wasn't goal side, which opens up the space for Garnacho to do what he does best, which is to make a forward run ahead of the centre forward from that central half space area. And to be fair, Højlund's lofted pass is perfectly weighted, as is Garnacho's header into space. Now Garnacho does well initially with the third man run and the header into his path, but the issue I have is that he doesn't seem to be able to simultaneously run for or with the ball at pace and also lift his head up to see the pass, and so he rarely ever plays the early pass when he should. Now in this situation he either needs to have the explosiveness to be able to race across Nico O'Reilly, either allowing him to get into a 1v1 in a central position or forcing O'Reilly to bring him down, likely resulting in a red card, or if not, at this point he just needs to thread the pass across goal for Bruno Fernandes, setting him up for the 1v1. But instead Garnacho doesn't have the acceleration to get across O'Reilly and instead takes the extra touch behind him, getting brought down outside of the box by Ruben Diaz. Now in this second clip, once again we can see United in that 3-2 shape at the base of the system, with City pressing zonally in a 4-3-3. Maguire moves the ball out to Euro, and like in the previous clip, you can see that because City are pressing zonally rather than man-to-man, which I think was a tactical error from Pep in this game, Ugarte is able to position himself between Foden and De Bruyne, with Bernardo Silva behind him by about 5 yards. Now like with the first clip, if Euro plays that pass splitting Foden and De Bruyne, this is going to give Dorgu the best chance of progressing the ball forward, as because Ugarte is receiving the ball in behind City's frontline press, Bernardo Silva is going to have to push out to apply the pressure, forcing him to move closer to Agate on his inside, therefore opening up space on his outside for Dorgu, meaning that if Agate can receive the ball and then bounce a pass out to Dorgu, now he has the space wide of Bernardo Silva to carry the ball out of the defensive third and into the middle third, getting goal side of the City midfield line. However, this time Euro hesitates on the ball. De Bruyne and Foden are able to squeeze across and cut the passing lane into Agate, forcing Euro out wide to Dorgu directly. And so now when Dorgu is receiving the ball, because the ball has gone directly from Euro into him rather than into Agate first, Bernardo Silva hasn't been drawn high and in field, and so when Dorgu receives possession, Bernardo Silva is goal side, and so Dorgu doesn't have the space to drive into ahead of the City midfield line, and so he's forced backwards to Euro. But as the pass is going back to the Frenchman, this is where we can see Amorim incorporating aspects of relationism into his possession system. As you can see, Bruno Fernandes is sitting behind the City midfield line in this right-sided half space, with Nico O'Reilly, the left back, being the closest presser to him. But rather than holding his position in this area, as we would see in a strict positional play setup, it seems Amorim has now given his two interior forwards, but specifically Bruno Fernandes in this situation, the freedom to drift across the pitch into open space. And so now when Euro receives the ball from Dorgu, Bruno essentially becomes a free man, because O'Reilly doesn't feel comfortable following him into this area on the right side and vacating his position on the left side of the City defence. However, the key to United being able to play through City's press is Euro's vision, confidence and execution of a lofted pass over the City midfield line into Bruno Fernandes, who is now the free man between the lines, with space to bring the ball down and either drive into the space, with Garnacho looking to provide the movement in behind from that left side, simultaneously dragging Nunes deeper and opening up the space behind for Dorgu to run into, and Bruno takes the opportunity to go wide to Dorgu as opposed to racing forward into the space himself. And so now when Dorgu receives the ball, he's goal side of Bernardo Silva and can race forward into the space, creating a 2v1 on the left flank with Garnacho. And so just like in the first example, we can see the clear benefits of progressing the ball through the centre and then going out wide, rather than going out wide directly from the wide centre back into the wing back. But as the move continues, we can also see the benefits of having an overlapping wing back, as even though Dorgu doesn't do much here, he doesn't receive the ball, the mere presence of his overlapping run ahead of Garnacho works to force Nunes to drop off to cover the run, granting Garnacho a few yards of space, from where he can come inside, bypass a fatigued Bernardo Silva who's just had to race back goal side with Dorgu, wherefrom Garnacho does well to switch the ball out to Dalot on the other side, and now when Dalot receives the ball here, he's in a 1v1 situation against Nico O'Reilly, and this is the sort of situation where ideally you'd have a winger at wing back such as Ahmad, which would be hugely beneficial, as he'd have the ability to take on the fullback and either go down the outside into a crossing position, or cut inside onto his left to open up a shooting angle. Dalot doesn't have the same 1v1 dribbling ability, but to be fair, if you have wingbacks who can deliver quality crosses, they don't really need to beat their man to get into a chance creating position. They just need to be able to create the space and get the ball out of their feet, which is exactly what Dalot does here. However, this is a sort of situation why I talk about United's need to recruit a centre forward or interior forwards who are significant aerial threats in the opposition's box, because if when Dalot receives a ball here you have someone like Osimhen, En-Nesyri, Sorloth, Patrick Schick, or even an interior forward like Matheus Cunha who's decent in the air, then this gives United a significantly better chance of scoring from this situation, because Dalot's delivery is excellent, able to deliver a perfectly weighted cross from a static position, and if you have someone who's better in the air than either Agate or Garnacho, at the very least I think United get a header on goal, if not score. And I'll go into this more in future videos, looking at specific signings from Osimhen and McNeil to some other alternatives as well, so make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you don't miss out on that video. But overall, playing through the centre of the press is essential. When United look to play around the press, going directly from the wide centre backs to the wing backs, this is where United's ball progression gets stifled. The wing backs are under pressure immediately, not receiving the ball goal side of the opposition's midfield line, and also because they're on the touchline, their passing options are further limited anyway. However, you can see from my analysis just how big a difference something simple, like first going from the centre backs into the central midfielders and then going out to the wing backs makes, in terms of United's ability to play through the press, moving from the defensive third to the middle third, and then being able to exploit the space that has been created. So thank you for watching, let me know your thoughts in the comment section, and if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to jerseyfifa.co. I'll leave it linked in the description and comment section, and you can use code Atlantis at checkout for a discount, and if you want to sign up to my Patreon to read any of my articles, I'll get access to the Instagram group chat, I'll leave that linked on the end screen now as well.